bringing a life into the world is a very serious responsibility, right? And because, as we talked about trauma before, we all dealt with so much trauma. I feel like it's irresponsible to bring a kid into the world and put them in these conditions of hell: war, poverty, disease. So war, poverty, disease, and imprisonment, right? So those are the four hells, right? Poverty oftentimes feeds into the other one: war, different kinds of conflicts, whether you're in the military or not, or just in your neighborhood. Disease, because impoverished people, they eat unhealthy, they get exposed to certain things, they be in certain environments. It might be a waste dump somewhere. And then the other one was imprisonment, because when you're impoverished, you end up you're desperate. So you resort to a lot of things that oftentimes are contrary to the law, right? So to put a kid in that circumstance, I feel that's so, I think that is illogical, is unreasonable, and it oftentimes is cruel. You know what I'm saying? And I say that because there's so many kids that fall victim to various forms of abuse, whether it's neglect, whether it's physical abuse, whatever the case may be. Why bring a kid into that situation if you don't have the resources to protect them? And as a black parent, we complain about the police beating up our young black men, right? Taking advantage of them. Well, if you don't have the resources to protect your kid from the police, why would you bring a kid into the world knowing that they can possibly have these encounters?
They're going to
That's
have
the
those
way I
encounters
look at it.
regardless.
Say that again.
They're going to have those encounters regardless.
They will, but it's a difference when you
Just
have that
because they're
encounter.
black.
Yeah, but it's a difference when you have that encounter and mom and dad got the resources to go and combat them. Killer Mike once said he was on a forum in a panel, and he was like, "Yo, I can't remember the he was arguing with the old heads like, yo, you trying to send these young boys out to die, but you didn't die back when it was your time. So I'm trying to send them." He's like, your job for the kids, your job is to survive the encounter. You don't have to do nothing. You get arrested, whatever the case may be. You let mommy and daddy, mom and dad, whatever he said, go and get your lawyer, and then we'll get you out of prison and deal with all the other consequences. A lot of these kids going to jail. They running from the cops. They doing all this desperate stuff. Meanwhile, just go ahead, plead the fifth, shut up. And I can say that off the strength of me and my daughter got arrested together, right? I just don't put my, we got arrested together. And while we was getting arrested, even though I had already had that conversation with her on multiple occasions, while we were getting arrested, while they were doing their investigation, better yet, I'm telling the cop, like, listen, I understand what's going on with you, blah, 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 but I can't speak to you without my attorney being present. So when they went to interview my daughter, who was two cars down, and she's walking by, I'm like, plead the fifth. So I'm reinforcing it. Shut up. We gonna go down here. We gonna be in jail for about 12 to 24 hours, maybe a whole weekend, but we'll be out of here. And we was out of jail the next day because we got the resources. You sit here, you start talking about a situation, what actually transpired. I don't want to say what actually transpired. That sounds bad. If you speak on a situation after it transpired and your emotions is up and you might not recall everything, you might incriminate yourself. So it's better to shut up and deal with this discomfort right now on the front end, because you know that mom and dad got the resources to get you out. And we got the network. If there's any mishaps, this we should have the resources at this point in our lives to hold people accountable. And nobody wants to be held accountable when you sit back and say, yo, these people are connected to this, connected to this, connected to this. They're going to be able to push some buttons. You see what I'm saying? So when you bring a kid in the world and you can't protect them at that level, you bring them into a life of hardship. People do it all the time. It happens all
Sometimes
across the
kids
world.
need to go to jail to learn a lesson, though. I mean, you're saying that women shouldn't bring children into this world because of a situation that might or might not
I'm
happen.
saying people, not don't put it on women. People
Well,
do not
ultimately, it's
become
the
a.
woman's choice that you were complaining about. That the man needs to have,
But all right, but
some
I'm
say
saying
so on
people.
whether they have the baby or not.
If you don't have, if you as a couple, you as an individual do not have the resources to protect them kids, don't bring them into the world until you have the resources.
I just think birth control is the answer. If you know that you can't abstain from sex and you're in a relationship, or you like to, you know, Tatiana out there, or you like to be a whore, then you need to take the proper precautions and not put yourself in that situation in the first place.
So y'all here call everybody whores because they out here fornicating and what's it called? What's it
Twerking,
called? Nah, hold on. What's it called in the Bible when people have sex and they not supposed to have sex?
fornicating.
Yeah, not yeah, but it's not for. It's another term in there. But yeah, people out here fornicating, man.
There's another
Yo,
term.
it's 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 a saying. It's not an abomination. It's desires of the flesh. I can't recall what it is, man. I see it or read it somewhere, and then I'm like, okay, that's what it was. But yeah, listen, it's a
No,
different
I'm
thing.
just saying, no, people that are promiscuous. If you know that you're a promiscuous person, then you should already be taking the, and that's for men and women. I'm not talking about just women.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
yeah,
men and women. If you're a whore, if you're a man, if you're a thought, in both ways, right? So I'm just saying, if you already have that in you and you know that there's a chance that you could become pregnant or get somebody pregnant, you just got to take the precautions instead of getting in that situation and then having to think about all that crap.
you
I
know,
mean,
you're
easier
right.
said than done because it happens. Like, I had my kid out of wedlock and I didn't think it could happen, and it did, and I was like, oh, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I mean, I understand it happens. That's life.
yeah.
But
Well, it happens a lot, and that's normal. Which is why one life. I don't want to say that, man, because people gonna misconstrue it. But listen, it happened to me. Two of my kids were out of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? So I got two bastards and one that's not a bastard. So all in all, I would still sit back and say, I think that they both are engaging in an activity, but who has more to lose as a consequence, immediately as a consequence of that encounter? The woman, right? Like if we being serious.
absolutely.
So because the woman has more to to lose.
That's why she has the option to decide what to do with her
Okay.
body, and that it
What,
should be the man's decision if he wants her to keep it or take it away, because it's ultimately going to be on her responsibility. She's going to bear the burden of carrying it, like you said, messing up her
and
body, as you said, and dealing with all the consequences and stressors of raising a freaking child.
exactly. And this is why, because women have to endure more, I think the responsibility, because it's not his body that's getting twisted up. He might look. I loved my kids for whatever love means. I didn't even like them and really establish a bond with them until they was beyond toddlers. Like I had a bond, but it wasn't the same way it was when they was older. They mothers seem to have a bond almost instantly. And I think it's a lot of fathers. I know some women don't, but I think it's a lot of fathers, especially if they wasn't in love with that woman, they don't have that strong bond with that baby right out the gate. That has to get developed
Yeah, of
biologically. Whatever hormones is released and whatever hormones is released during breastfeeding and all that, you are more inclined to have that bond.
course, yeah.
So because your body is valuable, you should dictate. You should sit back. Not you as an individual, but women, I think, should sit back and say, I have more to lose. I need to be more responsible for my body. Holding him accountable, hoping that he's going to make a decision in my best interest. And we've
Does
discussed this
not.
before.
It does nothing.
It's not going to work. Yeah, he's already a bum. He really just here for the party. He ain't here for the cleanup.
Yep,
He ain't here to build the house with you. He
absolutely.
did for the festivities and he's out. And he's going to go and do it again and again and again. And we've seen this story so many times. So I think, and this is my opinion, stop telling people that, oh, they both tangled. Yes, they both tangled, but they both do not have the same consequences. And we need to acknowledge that. The consequences are not the same.
Consequences are not the same, but the accountability on both parties should be equal, I feel.
I
And if
understand
that
what you're
woman
saying.
decides, and if that woman decides to have that child, and he decides he wasn't doesn't want to be a part of the child's life because he's not ready psychologically or financially or mentally, or he has no emotional attachment to the woman. So when that child turns out to be an asshole or fucking narcissist or a killer, part of that's on him. So the accountability goes on him too. Just
He ain't
because
gonna
she
kill
decided to
this.
keep it, that was life. Life came into her. She decided to have the baby. She did what most people do. You get pregnant, you have the kid. That's what God
Whoa,
made.
whoa! I'm not judging you. Like you getting
Oh,
emotional.
I'm
I'm
not
not trying
taking
to
it
knock you.
personal. I'm
Okay,
just saying
all right.
that's the situation for most. If that child ends up being an asshole, the dad who decided not to be there is he should take the same accountability as the
So,
woman. Just because she
so the
decided to
dad
have it
who
doesn't mean it's right to blame her. Like, well, you shouldn't have had the baby.
I think. All right, listen. There's different circumstances, right? We're dating. We're in a relationship. I get you pregnant. I skate. That's one thing, right? We've been in a relationship and we've been doing this for a while. There's another thing where we didn't really know each other that long. I really wasn't committed to you, and you decided to have a baby. You see what I'm saying? And there's a whole spectrum in this, right? And there's a certain part of that spectrum where we can sit back and say, no, you made a bad decision. And even if he leaves or he doesn't go, he leaves or not. If he's not a part of that kid's life, he don't care. Or maybe he will at time, but think about it. How many of these dudes out here don't raise their kids? Don't see their kids?